Release the Kraken!
Welcome back, fellow game designers. Ron here at Lame Duck Studios. In the last tutorial we looked at how to do pop-up text using widgets, and this one we look at how to do it using an actor and the text render component. So here I am in my scene like before, and I'm going to make a new actor. So go ahead and right click, do a blueprint class, we'll make it an actor. And this one is going to be text spawner, just to give it a different name. And here I'm going to go ahead and do add component. I'm going to do text. I'm going to pull in a text render. Make that my component here, or my scene root. And here's my text. Go to the right. See our text. We can add the text here. I'm going to do my horizontal alignment. I'm going to do that to center. This is really up to you, but I prefer center. And I will also align it to the vertical alignment to center as well. Again, up to you. If you have a font or a font family you want to load in, you can do that here. And then your other properties are here. Now this is where it gets kind of tricky. So a common problem in Unreal using the text renderer is that you can change the color. This is cool, you know, you can do whatever you want, change the color, make it fancy. But changing the alpha does nothing, right? You can see the alpha affected the color here, but it did nothing to the text itself. And so in this tutorial we're going to look at how to fix this, because they don't really tell you how. First thing you need to do is get access to the engine's material, or if you created your own text, or you imported a text and you created your own text material, get access to that. To do that, just double click on the material here in the window, and that's going to pull you in to the text of your editor. Now I don't really want to modify this one. I'm going to actually create my own from a duplicate of this. So I'm going to go back to my spawner here. Go ahead and close these other windows. I don't need those. Now if I go into my spawner here and I hit this little eyeglass, it's going to open the content in my content browser. And you can see we now have the engine content here. And here is the material that we're looking at. I'm going to go ahead and scroll up to where I can see my content and my tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and drag this over to my tutorial. I'm going to do copy here. I'm going to my tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and rename this. This is going to be text material tipped. I'm going to open it up. Okay. And you can see the setup in here. And it's really a quick thing. They're using the vertex color to get the color of the material, basically. But we're not using the channel from the opacity from the vertex color. We're just going to multiply this by this. So I'm going to drag this off, do a multiply. Plug my lerp into B. Plug my multiply into opacity, not opacity mask. I'm going to drag it right into opacity. I'm going to break the opacity mask channel. I don't really need that. You might be like, well, hey, it's got a mask, you know, it's masked out, you need to have opacity mask. No, it's not really how that works. You can use a mask and opacity or opacity mask. The behavior is a little bit different, but you can get away with just using the opacity channel. Because what I want to do is, instead of having the mask kind of continue to crop out the material or the letters, I want the entire opacity channel to fade in and out. So that's why I'm going to use the opacity channel here. Take that, take the mask down here, we're going to change that to translucent. And you can see we get the same masking effect, except now if I were to drive a value through here, we could fade this in and out. And if I hit apply, go back into my spawner material, I'm going to swap out this text material with mine. So what did I name it? Text material tut for a tutorial. And you can see now if I mess with my alpha value, it fades in and out. All right. Now if I go and change that, just so you see why we're doing the one over the other, go in here, let's swap this back to mask. And I'll throw this into opacity mask. You can see we still get the same kind of cropping, which is great. But now when I adjust this, see what happens to it. Instead of it fading out, the mask creeps in. Like the mask itself shrinks, it's like a shrink wrap around the text, which I don't want. I want to fade the text in and out, which is why we want to use the translucency channel, not the mask channel. Okay. Change that back. All right. I'm going to set this back to 255. That's fine. Really don't have to set a color here. We're actually going to drive that using a timeline. So that is that. I'm going to hit compile. Go back into my graph here. Now you can have the text pop up under any condition, like when you overlap an object or whatever it is. This object is actually going to be spawned the moment something hits it. So we don't need any of this stuff. We're just going to do the begin play. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these. Off of begin play, I want to do a timeline. I'm going to call this text move, or move text, whatever. So this is kind of like what we did before, except we're using a timeline to drive the event. Again, we're going to be using keyframes, so I'm going to hit the little F here. I'm going to hold Shift to click and drop in a keyframe. You can also right-click and add a key. For my first value, I'm going to go ahead and select that. The time value will be 0. The in value, or the actual value, will be 0. For the second, we did 2 seconds in the last one, so a time index of 2. I'm going to do a value of 1. And then I'll click in here and hit F to frame up. We're basically lerping from 0 to 1 or 0 to 100 in this case over a period of 2 seconds. That's how this is working out. I'm going to name the timeline, rename. This is going to be new position. And that'll be that. Basic stuff here, we're just going to go drag off our new position. This is going to be a lerp vector. So lerp vector. We need an A and a B. For that, we need to create 2 variables. So I'll do, let's do this. I'll just pull this off. I'll do promote to variable. This is going to be start location. And then I'll pull off B, and that'll be promote to variable. We'll do end location. So this part is kind of like setting up, kind of like when we did the door. We are going to update, set relative location. And we're going to do that for the text render. All that in. Plug it in. You do have an option for this to sweep. What sweep does is it checks to see if it collides with anything. We don't need that here. Okay, so that'll get it to move. But we also need to set these values. So let's go ahead and move this over. I want to make sure that we set these before we end up using them. So drag in the start location. The value off of here is going to be the actor location, so get actor location. And if you want to offset this so that when it spawns off of the player, whenever you hit them or whatever it is, you can do what we did in the previous one and just add to the vector. So we can do vector plus vector. Plug in that. So that'll be your start location, whatever you put in here. And not to have a magic number, I'm going to pull this off. I'll promote that to a variable as well. I'll call that start offset. And I'll expose it, and I'll make that expose on spawn. And then for the ending location, go ahead and drag this in to end location. The end location is going to be our starting location plus some value or minus some value. So start location, I'll just do a get. I'm going to copy this plus. And then how far you want the text to rise. For this one, I was going to do a magic number here, and I'll do 150. And actually, plus will make it go down. I want it to go up. So let's swap that up for a minus. So minus vector. You could have done on the plus vector. You could have done like a minus 150 instead of this. Same deal, right? Once we get these values, it's going to run this, offset it. And we're going to run the opacity. So go ahead and drag this off. Do a timeline. This will be alpha. Go ahead and click on it, open up. And this time we're going to use a color channel. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add color track. Add color track, sorry. And we have an alpha track and a color track. So this is where you can actually set your color. For the color, I'm actually going to use the color that I have here. Open this up and just type in the values that are here. Now the RGB values are not the same, but I can steal it using the color picker. Just like that. Now I don't want my color to change over time, so I'm going to have my start color and my ending color be the same. So I'll color picker, get that. I have the starting alpha be 1, my ending alpha be 0. Okay. And then it's going to want to know over how much time. So I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to set these to 2 seconds here. Now what's kind of neat is you can actually select this and right click, and you can add the time value here. So I'm just going to go ahead and type that in, so 2 seconds. I'll do the same thing for my color, right click on it, and do a time value of 2. Compile it. Let's name the output channel, so go ahead and right click, new track. We'll call this alpha out. And from here, we're actually going to set the color. So I'm going to drag in my text renderer. I do get text color. So text render color, we'll get it. And then I'm going to set it. So set text render color. Go ahead and open the value. And actually, I don't need the this one. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. I'm going to take my alpha out. I'm going to plug that out. Plug that right into there, actually. And then my update into here. Compile it. So there's that. We want this to destroy itself when it's finished. I guess we can do our delay or a lifetime. Lifespan of however long. I'm just going to do 2 seconds. So that matches the time of our delay, or our timelines, sorry. Compile it. Now we're going to go ahead and spawn it into something. For this, I'm going to use this object. Go back into my tutorial. I'll get my actor to receive text. And then on this one, go ahead and get rid of these. I don't need those. Instead of using this setup, go ahead and break this link. And we'll just do spawn actor from class. And the actor we're going to use will be the text spawner. You can see when it pops in, it has an offset, so how far off the object you want it to go. I'll start it at 100, sure. So it'll start a little bit higher. I do need the actor transform, so I'll get actor transform. And that's pretty much it. That. Play it, and then if I hit this, there's the text. Oop. It's going the wrong direction, but it is there. Let's fix that. Text spawner. My mistake. I put a minus here. It really should be plus. Screen locations, negative is up. Inside of Unreal's world locations and 3D space, positive is up. So I got that backwards. Sorry. That should be vector plus vector, which makes sense because I don't know why. Sometimes my brain does not work. How did that go up 150? So when I hit it, there's a text loading. Now we have a problem with the text not facing us. Now that's a simple fix. Hop back in. We will need our event tick. So right click, we'll do tick. I'm going to do set actor relative rotation. And then we also want to add the rotation as well. So then add actor relative, do add relative rotation, the text render. Now your target should be your scene component. I pulled this one in and I did not get the correct component, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. Control W. Just go ahead and remake this because it won't accept the target here. That should be off of this one. Set rotation, relative rotation. Now the rotation we're going to set is going to be based on the player controller. So player controller, we'll get that. Then after this one, we're going to do get actor transform. So get actor transform. Context sensitivity. We're going to break the transform. You could right click and split it. Same deal. And then off of here, get the rotation. Break rotator. Now you actually don't have to break the rotator, you could just plug it straight in. I'm going to show you why I'm not going to do that, but let me go ahead and do this. So break rotator, open this up, split it, so Z to Z. This way it only rotates on the one axis, but I'll show you in a moment. And then for this one, we'll fix that in just a second. You'll see why this one's important. Compile. Let's go ahead and play it. So if I hit it, the text is rotating relative to the screen. You can see that. Now it's still backwards. That's why we have to add the rotation. So we're going to go back in. So for our add rotation, we're going to do 180 on the Z. Hey, now it's facing us, and it will always face us, right? But if I don't rotate it on the Z-axis, let's go ahead and do that. If I don't have it go through the Z-axis, go ahead and break this. It really comes down to personal preference. But if I then walk over this, and I turn my camera, see how it tilts? It tilts in a weird way. Like, it's okay if I'm here, and I look this way, but then it starts to tilt, like, away. And that's just one extra thing I have to fix, which I don't want to. I'm perfectly content with it always just rotating and facing me in a general direction. It doesn't matter if I'm above it and it faces me. But you are welcome to mess with that if you want. For me, I am perfectly happy with one direction of rotation. Go ahead and save it. And that is how you can create a text using one method or the other. Now the nice thing about this one is, so the one that's using the widget, the text is always in front. The one that uses the actor to spawn, the text can be behind the player, which kind of gives you a sense that the text is a physical property. So it really depends on your type of game. Like Secret of Evermore was like that. And when you hit the enemies, the text kind of popped off like it was part of the world, which was kind of a neat feel. Other games, it doesn't really matter. It's just like an aesthetic choice. But I liked having the option of doing it one way or the other. So anyway, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it or whatever, you know what to do. And I will see you in the next one. Hey guys, thanks for checking out my channel. Misty and I both thank you. If you've enjoyed the video you just watched, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Also, if you have any comments or suggestions for future videos, make sure you leave them down in the comments. I upload new content every Sunday, and I release content every Wednesday. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, I do have a Patreon. Get content early. I also have official merch, Lame Duck Studio merch. It does exist. They do exist. So make sure you stick around for anything new, and I will see you next time.